I became interested in working with jewelry and metals in high school. I started building a Kentucky rifle my senior year in high school, and that involved woodworking and working with steel and brass and machine shop tools. And I guess I fell in love with that whole, all the processes involved in that. Early on, we recognized that to a Kentucky resident that wanted to be an artist or a craftsman, there were many support mechanisms here, and one of those is the Kentucky Craft Marketing Program. And so we moved here because of that program, and we've had our son here, and he's grown up around our business because we live and work in the same building. And it's really, to me, it's great to be able to work with my wife. She's a beautiful woman, and I felt that what would be the advantage of having such a great spouse if you don't get to spend lots of time with each other. And when our son comes home from school, I mean, we're here. So it affords us a lifestyle that we kind of sometimes take for granted.
Working here and living here and having the whole family here all the time it's like a three-ring circus, and it's but the good things outweigh the bad things.
We work primarily with brass and bronze and sterling silver and pewter, and over the years we've made all different kinds of jewelry. Today I want to show you some of the processes that we use. The process of taking raw rubber that comes in two half-inch thick discs and taking the models. In this case, they'll be the models for casting napkin rings. I would place those models with lock nuts on there and then put it into a mold frame, and then put that mold frame with the mold inside into a hydraulic press vulcanizer. And we'll cook that mold at about 325 degrees for 1 hour, and then we have to take the frame apart, remove the now vulcanized rubber mold, and then I'll have to take a very sharp surgical type knife and cut all the channels and sprue and gates to the cavities that were molded into the mold through the vulcanization process. I use a centrifugal pewter casting machine that uses an air assist mechanism to clamp the mold into it. The pot we use holds about 50 pounds of pewter, and this pot is electric, and it holds the pewter at about 600 degrees at the temperature that we have found works best for the alloy we use, and we cast directly into the rubber. One of the beauties of pewter casting is that when you're through with the casting, because in the mold we developed what's called a kiss gate. The little sprue leading right into the cavity of the pieces being cast is called a kiss gate because it's tapered. When we're through, we can just break the pieces off, leaving very little grinding to be done to clean up the sprue.
There's the metal sprue, and then on the edges they have the product that we have to break off, and you just wiggle it back and forth like this, and then finally it'll just break off, and then later it goes through tumbling and gets polished up. But one of my favorite things to watch is probably the lost wax casting, because, you know, it looks cool because there's fire and stuff.
This is a process that people have really done for thousands of years. Of course, we use more modern equipment today, but it's a process called lost wax casting. And I will show you how we produce some of our bronze pins, and we engrave metal molds and inject those molds with wax to create the model that we will use to invest into plaster. And once that plaster is set up and they're all sprued and set up in a flask, then we burn the wax out of the investment or the plaster, which leaves a cavity for use as a one-time mold that will also show how we melt the bronze and vacuum the bronze into the mold cavities and then break those, destroy the mold to reclaim the molded bronze. Years ago, there were companies in Providence, Rhode Island, that had been producing equipment for jewelry manufacturers for many years. And one of those things that was not available to the small studio was machines to do fusion welding. The industry had already developed findings that had little tiny nibs on them that when loaded into a machine and charged with opposite charge that your piece of jewelry is charged with, and they came into contact, would cause a little tiny explosion. And that little nib would hit the other one and basically blow up, creating a vacuum between the two pieces. And then as they connected, a flow of electricity would create just enough heat to actually fuse the two metals together. And there was a company that decided that they were going to create a small fusion welding machine for the studio jeweler that would be more affordable, so that companies like ours could use fusion welding technology. Primarily, we've been focusing on telling the story of this region and Kentucky and surrounding states through some of the graphic icons that are known throughout this region: quilt patterns, shaker motifs, nature themes, horse. And we've done this to sort of fill in the gaps of what we've seen as been a need in the gift shops that many of the travelers come to. They're looking for things that are made in this region that tell the story of their visit here.
We do those in all these different ways. We do them as keychains, as pendants, as napkin rings, Christmas ornaments, bracelets, refrigerator magnets. Those designs just work on everything. Living in this community with other artists and craftspeople is something that I think is a really wonderful kind of lifestyle.
One thing I think it's important for artists in Kentucky and all around the world to understand is that we may work fairly much in solitude, but I think it's very important that we, as artisans, all work with our communities and each other to develop the artisan community and to learn from each other and to share.